Let's begin as we always do by just settling in, getting the mind and body in the same place. We're usually running all over the place with our mind and feel completely in another time and space. So this is just an effort to center, center ourselves, not to be overly dramatic, but let's do that. Just breathe a little bit and relax. Sanda Sankara Shida Sampana Karachpanishuna Susur to big Satyaman so Rumi Shiki, keep her name to some sleeping. And sent you going to send it, say, but the way to make sure. So we're going to begin with our bodhicitta motivation. Bodhicitta is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, along with the, it doesn't seem, okay. Yes, okay, I see your comment. So if you have a question or a comment, you can always put it in the chat on YouTube. I have it visible here, so you can use that. Okay. So we want to start again, as I was saying, with our bodhicitta motivation, which is the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings, along with the determination to do whatever is necessary towards that end. So what does that mean when I say that second part? What does the first part mean for that matter? We just contemplate the suffering of beings, the immense suffering that is out there for human beings, animals, and beings in other realms as well. And we generate compassion for them, which, ideally would arise naturally because we have a good heart and we don't want to see others suffer. But mere compassion is not enough. It's great. We should have it. We should cultivate it. We should try to make it stronger, but it's not enough. We need the will and understanding that if we want to remove that suffering, which is of course part of compassion, then we need to remove the cause of that suffering, which is this fundamental ignorance about the nature of reality, right? How things really are. And in order to do that, we need to attain enlightenment. Otherwise, we'll just continue as we have been since beginning this time, which, has gotten us here. So not very far, right? Uh, so we want to really understand the import and the power of attaining enlightenment and have the desire to achieve that so that we can remove the suffering of others. What is the determination part of that? So it's not just the mere wish, it's saying, I will do whatever is necessary, whatever is within my capacity to do everything I can to walk this path in the best way that I can in order to attain enlightenment. So that means formal practice, sitting on our cushion or our bed or a chair, and doing the formal practice of meditation and sadhana and nundro or whatever it is that we're doing. And to do what's called Jeto post-meditation kind of practices, which is, depending on how seriously you are practicing, if you're doing a formal practice like the nundro, then you want to keep whatever visualization it is that you're doing and continue to recite the mantra. If you're not doing any kind of practice like that, then practice in daily life is things like mindfulness, being aware of what we're doing, and kindness and compassion and patience and all of those things. Yeah, on a deeper level, trying to see the emptiness nature of everything. All of those things together comprise the post meditation period. Okay, so please do your best now on this really special day, which I'll talk about in a minute, to generate that bodhicitta, compassion for others, wish that they be free of suffering, and the determination to do our best to walk this path towards enlightenment. So I want to take a moment to discuss today. Um, we are Today is a partial solar eclipse, and we got a lovely message from Rinpoche this morning, um, um, asking us, urging us to practice today because the effects of our practice will be multiplied hundreds of thousands of times on a day like today. So anytime that there's an eclipse, and there's certain other days in the year as well, um, there are certain days like eclipses and other days where the power of our practice is extremely increased. That includes the power of our negative acts. So on these days, we want to be, we always try to be careful, right? But on days like this, we want to be extra careful. We want to put in, even more effort uh, to practice and to reach the goal. Okay. So I once asked Rinpoche, like, what is it about these days that, affects our merit? And he said that it was because of how the subtle energies circulate through our system, through our body. So that affects our mind as well. And somehow that is related to the power of our practice. He didn't really elaborate beyond that. So I don't know for sure beyond that. But I think if we consider um, karma, law of cause and effect, and how karma resides in the subtle consciousness, then that maybe that has something to do with that. I'm not sure. That's just my speculation. So I don't want to go too far down that road. So today I did send out a newsletter. So if you haven't checked your email, please do that. Um, we will be practicing all day today. So right now we have this meditation from 10:30 to 11:30. You guys will be only on YouTube for that. And then from 11:30 to 12, we'll be doing the Buddha Sadhana together on Zoom only. Okay, so you come off YouTube, come over to Zoom, use the Buddha Sadhana link. If you're not on our newsletter, you'll want to sign up for that. That's the best way to get all the latest news. But if you're not a newsletter, just check the description box below, and you should be able to. Let me just double check. I think, let's see. You have a link for closing prayers, for signing up for the newsletter and for the website. And if you go down a little bit more where it says other links, you'll see the 1, 2, 3, 4, the Buddha Sadhana link is there for the page. But in fact, you can use the first link uh, um, under the second section. I'm making it so complicated. Other links, look that, and then Zoom group practice, use that link, okay? And then you can connect up with us for the sadhana and also for the practice that we're going to be leaving that link open all day. So all day means from 12 to 9, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. So if you do a Buddha sadhana, you just leave it open. Just that's the same link we'll be using the whole day. So for today, it's just a way of encouraging people to practice together, and to do maybe more practice than we would otherwise be doing. And it's just very relaxed. You can come and go as you like, stay as long as you like. Uh, you don't have to use your camera if you don't want to. It's just so we can practice together. So that will be, as I said, all day long. Do whatever practice that you like. There won't be any instruction, just the company of other practitioners, which, there's two things to do with that. One is that Rinpoche has requested us to practice as a group as much as possible because group practice is more powerful than just practicing on your own. Um, and so we want to do that as much as we can. Um, I forgot what my other point was. I don't remember what my other point was, but anyway, so feel free to join or not. If you're not into it, that's fine. But yeah, would be good to do a little extra practice today if you can, and just hop on and off as your day allows. Um, and we'll just go from there. Okay. If there's any questions about that, just put it in the chat and I'll try to answer before um, the end. So I want to talk today a little bit just about the Buddha, because today is Buddha Shakyamuni Day. So we, by the way, practice the Buddha sadhana 3 times a month on the eighth, lunar eighth, which is like I think the rising half moon, and then the full moon, which is the lunar 15th, and the new moon, which is the lunar 30th, which is today. And all of those dates are on the calendar on our website. So if you look under events, the drop down menu for the calendar, and that is pretty much always kept up to date. So if you're wondering, you can go there and look. You can sync that case, should be able to sync that calendar with your own calendar, or at least use it to write down things for your own calendar. Um, um, oh my goodness, I keep losing my head. Right. So anyway, so you're anybody's welcome to join us for those days. Again, it's another reason to sign up for the newsletter because you can always find the dates in the newsletter, but just check the website if you want to know. So since today's Buddha Sadhana Day, the Buddha Shakyamuni Day, I want to talk about that for a little minute. So um, what the story of the Buddha, okay, you can find anywhere online. There's a really good book called Old Path, White Clouds by Thich Nhat Hanh. That's just a love, it's just gorgeous about the life of the Buddha. So you can, if you want all the details, you can look there. But essentially, the Buddha was born to a prince in India. Um, and at his birth, it was foretold that he would be either a king or a renunciate, and his father wanted him to be the king, wanted him to take over the temple. So he protected him from suffering as best as possible. So um, he didn't let him leave the walls of the temple grounds. He made sure that there were no, that the Buddha like never saw death or old age or any kind of suffering whatsoever. He gave him everything he could possibly want in the hopes that all of this would just keep the Buddha in the palace. And his name was Siddhartha at the time, to keep Siddhartha in the palace so he wouldn't leave and become a renunciate. But as the Buddha grew up, um, he got curious, like anybody would, right? He became quite curious about the outside world. So he had his charioteer, whose name is Chandrika, I believe, Chandaka, something like that. Chandra, I think. Um, anyway, they were friends, right? So they spent a lot of time together. And so he asked him to kind of sneak out of the temple walls with him so he could look around. And depending on the story, they went out one time or they went out four times. But in any case, in these outings, the Buddha saw four different things that changed his life and changed our life, actually. He saw uh, a sick person, which he'd never seen before. He saw an old person, which again, he's never seen before. He saw a dead person, which again, he'd never seen, and a renunciate. And each of the previous three things, the sick, old, and dead, he was asking Chandra, like, what is this about? And Chandra would explain to him, and the Buddha would say, well, does this happen to everybody? And, like, does everybody get sick? Does everybody age? Does everybody die? And Chandra was like, yes, you know, sorry, but it's true. Um, yes, happens to everyone. And it really shook the Buddha. And when he saw the renunciate, he was inspired to leave the palace and go and find out the meaning of life, essentially. What is this all about? What are you talking about? Everybody dies, right? W- So he one night escaped the palace and cut off his hair and became a wandering ascetic. And he visited various teachers and learned their ways and always progressed very swiftly. And the teacher would suggest that the Buddha take over. He was like, you've learned everything I have to teach you. Um, you should take over now. And the Buddha didn't want to each time because he was like, well, you found, certain things and your methods are skillful to a certain extent, but you're not really getting rid of suffering altogether. And that's what I'm looking for, you know? So he always said no. And after 6 years of that, he eventually decided to just try to find the answer himself. And he landed at Bodh Gaya in India and r- must have realized at that point that he was very close to the answer. So he um, decided to sit under the Bodhi tree, Ficus religiosa, decided to sit under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya and determined to stay there until he attained enlightenment. And at daybreak the next day, he did. He attained enlightenment and he went and began his 60-year teaching career. So, what I wanted to discuss in that process is this switch that the Buddha made, this decision that he made that, like, there has to be more, there has to be an answer. Okay. And why I want to talk about that is because I think we all have that switch. Some of us might have already gone through that, some of us might not have gone through that, but it's a very natural progression. And it's something that I think we can relate to as people who are privileged, actually, people who, have quite a lot. Okay. I'm not saying that, all of us are extremely wealthy or anything like that, but I can say with some measure of confidence that we have at least the basics met. Okay. And having these basics met, meaning food, housing, healthcare, a job, or some other way of obtaining money, uh, is a huge thing, actually, right? These this these things together help us to they give us the space to examine something beyond the material world, something beyond what is right in front of us. So, what I mean by that is, let's say, if we were like a single mom with five kids, like there's no time for that. There's no time for study or practice or anything. We're working our butts off. trying to, raise our kids, right? So we don't have that opportunity. Or if we were extremely ill for years and years at a time, that also makes it very difficult. So that's what I mean by privilege and wealth. Like we're not experiencing homelessness, for example. Okay. All of those things are hugely advantageous towards exploring the spiritual life. And at some point, we may have, or we may in the future, start to question things, right? What is all this about? What is the point, right? What is the meaning of life? I mean, it's a real question. It might sound, I don't know, glib or dramatic, exaggerated, but it's not. You know, there is a time, or there may be a time in the future where we think, what is this for? You know, um, yes, I have a house. Yes, I have enough food. Yes, I have healthcare, all these things that I mentioned, or, friends and family. Yes, I have all these things, but I'm still not happy. That's really what where it's coming from, right? I'm still not happy. Like I have these momentary periods of happiness, couple hours, couple days, maybe longer. But inside, I feel like there's something missing, right? I don't see the purpose of all of this. And, people ask that question, and it's an important question. And hopefully, they can find an answer to that. I think what often happens is people get scared by the question. They don't know where to look for the answer. And so they end up pushing it down or ignoring it or filling up that gap, filling up that um, wondering space because of their fear, confusion, feeling of being lost, right? Then when we fill up that space with, you know, social media or, various other ways of running away, right? So it can be like the drinking or, you know, just becoming a workaholic, which a lot of people do, especially in America, right? Just like filling all the space with work so we don't have to think. You know, I think a lot of people are quite aware that just to sit for 5 minutes with themselves is frightening, you know. So it takes some courage to really start to sincerely look for the answers of how to avoid suffering, how to find meaning, and what to do with ourselves in this life. Yeah. And that's where the Buddha was when he took these outings with his friend and just saw these things for the first time and was really shocked. And that's another point. Like these moments of shock can be extremely beneficial for us. So, um, you know, let's say that we um, got a news from our doctor that we have a very serious illness. That's a moment of shock. That's a moment of awakening. And as frightening as that is, and no doubt that's something that's really scary for people, it's also a very extremely precious opportunity to wake up and to acknowledge the reality of our situation. Okay. That same kind of shock can happen when someone that we love passes away, or when we lose our job, or when, our house gets robbed, or anything like that. happens, we get shocked, and that shock is an excellent opportunity to for to observe reality as it is, okay, and to see the worth and the wisdom of the teachings and of practicing. How we normally are is we're kind of half awake, right? We're sort of zombified, kind of just going through life, not thinking too much, you know, doing the basics that we have to do from day to day, um, filling our time with work or TV or the internet or whatever, right? And it's sort of cozy in a negative way. And like, Trungpa, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche is just gorgeous for these kind of teachings, where he talks about the cocoon and like we want to stay in the cocoon, right? Meaning we don't want to wake up, we don't want to be uh, perky, is his word. We sort of don't want to be perky, we don't want to be aware, we don't want to be awake. And I mean, we see it in our life in a very sort of literal sense, and not wanting to get out of bed, not wanting to face the day. Some of us, right? I'm sure there's some of you weirdos out there who wake up very happy and perky and just are ready to go, do your running and drink your smoothie and all that. I salute you. I'm not one of those people. So, uh, so he talks about, we don't want to step out into something different. We don't want to face like the sharpness of reality. And so we would rather just stay. And he talks in great detail about this, about like we're just in our cocoon with our like smelly clothes and dank air and all this kind of stuff, and we don't want to leave the cocoon. So when we get to that point of questioning, like the Buddha did, of sort of being like flabbergasted by life, right? Oh my God, I just got this really serious diagnosis. Or, oh no, my dad just died, or my dog, or whatever it is, right? As painful as it is, we should acknowledge and take advantage of the awakening that that shock brings us. Okay. And the thing is that it doesn't necessarily last very long. Okay. It lasts however long, I don't know. It really depends very much on the person and the circumstances. But eventually we slide back into that zombified type of awareness that we're trying to get out of. So I think that being lulled to sleep by our circumstances is a disadvantage. On one hand, it's an advantage, right? All those things I mentioned earlier, like we have enough food and housing and blah, blah, blah. All that is an advantage because it gives us a space to practice, because we have the, precious human life list, right, of all the advantages that we have physically, mentally, emotionally, situationally, in order to be able to practice. On another hand, it's kind of is in us in this sense, right? A sort of disadvantage because it lulls us to sleep, kind of this walking dead kind of sleep situation. Yeah. So that's why we have teachings like the Four Noble Truths, right? Um, I'm just going to read that to you quickly, and then we'll go on to meditation. So these, and I've discussed these Four Noble Truths in detail on this channel. So you can look back at that. I'm sorry, not Four Noble Truths. I had discussed that too, but I'm talking about the four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. Those are there to help us to wake up, right? Because we're in this kind of dull, hypnotic state of stasis, right? Of just trudging through life. These four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma are there to wake us up. We don't, these opportunities of shock that we have when we face impermanence or, illness, death, this kind of stuff, they're fairly rare, right? So these four thoughts that turn the mind are an effort to wake us up, to push us into that kind of awareness so that we are inspired to practice. Okay. So the first is precious human life. And I'm going to read just four one verse um, per thought so we can get a little bit inspired. So precious human life. This is from the Bodhicharya Avatara, or the Way of the Bodhisattva by Shantideva. This free and well-favored human form is difficult to obtain. Now that you have the chance to realize the full human potential, if you don't make good use of this opportunity, how could you possibly expect to have such a chance again? Then for impermanence, this is from the Lalita Vistara Sutra. This existence of ours is as transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movement of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down the steep mountain. And now from the Rajabhavadaka Sutra on the law of cause and effect, or karma. When his time has come, even a king has to die, and neither his friends nor his wealth can follow him. So for us, wherever we stay, wherever we go, karma follows us like a shadow. And then for the last one is from, again, the Lalita Vistara Sutra on the suffering of cyclic existence, or samsara. Because of craving, attachment, and ignorance, humans, gods, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings foolishly go around like the turning of a potter's wheel. Okay. All right, so now let's go into meditation. We're going to do mindfulness of breathing practice. So that begins by adopting the posture. If you're sitting in a chair, you just want to put your feet flat on the floor. If you're sitting on a cushion or on your bed, just cross your legs in whatever way is comfortable for you. The rest of the instructions are the same. Main thing is that the back is straight. So not tense, but straight. Back of the neck is also straight. Chin is going to be tucked in a little bit. Your hands should be either palms down on your knees or palms up, resting like that in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that. Whatever way you prefer. Arms are relaxed, shoulders are back a little bit. Okay. And as you'll find, this opens up your chest, which might help. Mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of the mouth, breathing through the nose. The eyes are open and looking down in front of you, 2 feet, just a relaxed, lowered gaze. Okay. If you find it uncomfortable to have your eyes open, that's fine. You can close them, but over time, it's good to train to have them a little bit open because of how it affects the brain and the practice. Okay, so that's our posture. So what are you doing in this posture? Well, we're bringing the mind or the awareness to the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. So take a moment to just notice that sensation. So we're looking at the nostril area, okay? We'll take a second and just notice that sensation. So this meditation, we're going to be, the aim is to maintain continuous, uninterrupted awareness of that sensation of the breath, letting the thoughts come and go as they will. Okay. So the way that thoughts move through our mind is just arise, they dwell, and they would disappear on their own if we didn't mess with them. Okay. But our habit is to run after them and feed them with all our might. Okay. So that's the part we're trying to um, not engage with. Okay. We're not trying to stop the thoughts, just let them come. But what we're trying to do is not get distracted by them. So we can notice them. We can even label them if we want, thinking, but we want to maintain that awareness of the breath. If and when we do get distracted by them, because it's a really strong habit, that's fine. That's why it's called practice, right? Then we just bring our mind back. That's it, you know? So I'll give you an example. So let's say that we're sitting here and we just the thought arises, oh, next month is Easter. And okay, what we want to do is just notice that thought, just let it go, and it'll be replaced by another related or unrelated, So for example, you might think next month is Easter, and then the next thought is those little bunnies, peeps, and then the next thought is Snickers bars, and then the next thought is fires. And they can be related or not, who knows, right? The point is just let that happen. Let that process happen on its own without getting involved. What we want to avoid is same situation, say thought arises Easter, and then we just are off and running. Oh, my parents are going to have us over, and then what am I going to say? And oh, I'm vegan. What am I going to? I need to bring something. And I remember when I was 7 and we had Easter and I had a little dress and blah, 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 blah. And then we're gone, we're just gone. But there will come a moment where we realize we got distracted. As soon as we realize that, just bring the mind back. That's it. No judgment. Okay. No comment, no whatever. Just, oh, I got distracted. Bring the mind back. Very light touch. Okay. All right. So let's just start there for now. Just we have the posture, bring the awareness to the breath. And then try to maintain awareness of the breath, letting the thoughts come and go on their own, bringing the mind back whenever you get distracted. Please begin that now. Now begin to count the breaths, counting either every in breath or every out breath to a total of 10 complete breaths. So the counting is a method for realizing more quickly when we get distracted, because we will realize that we lost count, right? So as soon as you realize, oh, lost count, and bring my back and start again at 1. If you get to 10 without losing count, and don't let that distract you, just bring the mind back, start again at 1 and continue. So please begin that now. Bring the mind back to the breath. Just being in the present moment, observing the breath in a very relaxed way, letting the thoughts come and go without engaging in them, keeping continuous awareness of the sensation of the breath coming in and out of the nose. Okay, we can end meditation now. We're going to close with our closing prayers. So I will share that with you. Um, and before we say those prayers, I just want to remind you, in case there are people who have joined in who were not here at the beginning, that because today's, well, first of all, we're going to be doing the Buddha sadhana directly after we end here. So you will find the link for that in the description below, under wherever it is. Just look in the description, there's a link for it. And then we will just keep that link open for the rest of the day. So we do the sadhana from 11:30 to noon, and then from noon to 10 p.m. This link will be open, and we will be practicing together as our schedules and time allow. You can come and go as you like, stay as long as you like, camera on, camera off. It's just going to be kind of relaxed and joyful day of practicing together as much as we can, because today is a very powerful day for that due to the eclipse. Okay, so let's begin with these closing prayers. We say these 4 long life prayers for our teachers just in Tibetan. Anri wawe kowe shinkan su dandan de wa malu juwe ne. Sinner si won ten sing yam su yi shape gal ga ba tu tang yu shi. Then the one below that. Om swasti jime kempe kalong yam paru. Kunga se chen se se buntawa. Nitru den sound nam ke no bu cho. Se che yawe shakim ta su so. Om swasti selagam sochina tenjune luzinda se gyuchu pamawa. Samsum nadre gyabota tene lapshenten de shaitan taike sho. Nama kungam sampo suwadat chaduku sayriwa suwadat. Sine tashinge pa suwadat nama dadre wa me pa chingi lo. And for the next page, the first one we say once. Just in English, and then we say the 100-syllable mantra. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sonandi tamche sepani, chone nebe janam panche shing, Egana chi balon trupai, sipe sole droa sho. May bodhicitta, precious and sublime, arise where it has not yet come to be, and where it has arisen, may it never fail, but grow and flourish ever more and more. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may it too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. Ever absorbed in the display of divine forms and primordial awareness, appearance, sound, and perception in the state of divinities, mantras, and dharmakaya, may I, inseparable from the practice of the profound and secret great yoga, attain within the essence of mind the state of one taste. Om Vajra Sattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sattva Jenopa Tishtadre Do Me Bawa Sutokayo Me Bawa Supokayo Me Bawa Anurakto Me Bawa Sawa Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sawa Kama Sutsame Sitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagawan Sawadata Gata Vajrama Me Mutsa Vajri Bawa Ma Samaya Sattva. Okay, so now it's time for the Buddha sadhana. You want to hop on that link, and I'll see you over there.